Welcome to the last part of reproduction. So far we have looked at introduction, we have also looked at asexual reproduction, we also looked at sexual reproduction in plants, and of course in the previous video we looked at sexual reproduction in animals. So we're going to finish sexual reproduction in humans in this video. So from where we ended, we're going to continue by taking a look at fertilization, implantation, and fetal development. Okay, so fertilization is the first step. Then when there's fertilization, the next step is implantation. Then after implantation, there is fetal development. Okay, so fertilization is just the fusion of the nucleus of a male gamete with the nucleus of a female gamete to form a single cell called a zygote. Okay, so fusion means meeting. So when a male gamete and the female gamete meet and their nucleus mix, okay, then a new cell that is formed is called a zygote. So this fertilization normally occurs in the oviduct. Okay, the oviduct, the tube that connects the uterus to the ovary. So when an ovum has been secreted by the ovary, as it is going, it will meet with the spermatozoa somewhere in the oviduct, and that meeting is fertilization. So after fertilization, the zygote travels through the oviduct towards the uterus and divides repeatedly by a process which is mitosis to form an embryo. So mitosis is just when cells are dividing to form cells that have the same genetic makeup. In short, they are forming replica or duplicate cells. Okay, so this zygote is going to continuously divide and it will result into what is called an embryo. Okay, the zygote is when just the male and female gametes have fused. Okay, then when it starts dividing through the process of mitosis, since it is getting more cells, so it will be growing in size, it will form an embryo. So as it is dividing, forming an embryo, it will reach the uterus, and the embryo will undergo a process of implantation. So the embryo will undergo a process of implantation. So implantation is just the process by which an embryo gets attached to the walls of the uterus. Okay, so this happens about 11 or 12 days after fertilization. Okay, so the embryo will get attached to the walls of the uterus. So as the embryo develops, it forms a temporal organ known as the placenta. So this placenta is going to do things that like in an adult human that are performed by the lungs, the kidneys. So those important organs, since they are not yet developed, so the placenta is going to do all those jobs for the embryo. So as soon as vital organs begin developing, the embryo's name changes to fetus. Okay, so the first, when the male and female gametes when they met, what was formed, the cell that was formed was a zygote. So as the zygote continue dividing through the process of mitosis, forming new cells and increasing in size, and as it was going to the uterus, it became known as an embryo. Okay, so when it got implanted in the uterus, the vital organs, when they start to develop, it becomes to be known as a fetus. So this occurs 6 to 8 weeks after fertilization. So this is how the fetus is positioned in the uterus. Okay, so the placenta is somewhere here. Then other than the placenta, there is this tube which is connected from the placenta to the fetus called the umbilical cord. Okay, so this fetus is suspended in a fluid called the amniotic fluid, and the bag which is in the uterus is called the amnion. So the amnion protects the or covers the amniotic fluid. Then the amniotic fluid acts as a shock absorber, so that when the mother is moving, the shocks that might be coming or the vibrations that might be coming maybe from her legs as she is moving do not reach and affect the baby. So once they reach the amniotic fluid, they are going to be absorbed and they won't reach the baby. The baby won't feel the impact. Okay, so these are the various parts in the uterus when a fetus is developing. Another view is this. So the placenta is this, which is very important, as I've outlined. Then the umbilical cord has got the blood vessels. It has the artery and the vein, which are of course called the umbilical artery and the umbilical vein. Okay, so of course the blood vessels, they have to transport materials between the fetus and the external environment. Okay, then of course the amniotic fluid and the amnion. Then of course here there's always some mucus which acts as a plug to block the cervix. Okay, so that there is a separation between what's happening here and what's happening here. So now let's go and discuss what the placenta does. It does lots of functions or roles. So let's just take a look at some of the important ones. So the placenta performs the roles normally performed by the intestines, kidneys, and lungs in adult human beings. These include absorption of food, excretion, and gaseous exchange. So the function of the placenta is summarized as follows. So first, it attaches the fetus to the uterus of the mother. Okay. Then second, it protects the fetus from the mother's immune system, mother's blood pressure, and pathogens. Remember, the mother's immune system has antibodies which attack any foreign particles. So if the baby has some foreign particles, the baby can be attacked. So the immune system, the blood pressure, and pathogens are kept away by the placenta. So it does this by forming a barrier that prevents mixing of the blood of the mother and the blood of the fetus. Also, the placenta acts as it helps with the exchange of materials between the fetus and mother by the process of diffusion. So some materials can be allowed to diffuse into the fetus and some can diffuse out into the mother's blood system. So dissolved food and oxygen diffuse from the mother's blood to the blood of the fetus, while carbon dioxide and urea diffuse from the blood of the fetus to the mother's blood. So urea and carbon dioxide are waste products from the mother, from the fetus. The fetus doesn't want those. The carbon dioxide has to be excreted and urea has to be excreted, just like a full grown-up human. We breathe out carbon dioxide, and of course urea we excrete it when we urinate. So even a fetus has to excrete these two harmful substances. So they pass through or they diffuse from the baby's bloodstream to the mother's bloodstream. Okay, well, those materials that are needed by the baby, such as food and oxygen, diffuse from the mother's to the fetus through the placenta. So the placenta has finger-like projections called the villi that increase the surface area for gaseous exchange of substances. Remember where else we have these finger-like projections in the small intestines, and what they do is they increase the surface area for exchange of substances. Also, the placenta has a role in secretion of hormones. It secretes progesterone to maintain the thickness of the uterus lining during pregnancy. It also secretes a very special hormone called human chorionic gonadotrophy hormone, or HCG, which prolongs the activities of the corpus luteum. Remember, the corpus luteum is the one that has to maintain the lining of the uterus. Okay, so when there's no progesterone and estrogen to do the job, this the placenta, of course, make sure that it secretes this HCG so that it does that job. So another thing that this chemical, the HCG, is used for, it is used to detect if a woman is pregnant. So the presence of this in the urine of a woman is a sign that she is pregnant. So besides the useful materials that cross the placenta from the mother's blood to the blood of the fetus, some harmful substances that are made of small molecules also manage to cross the placenta and affect the baby negatively. Okay, so some harmful substances can move from the mother's bloodstream to the baby. These harmful substances, of course, include carbon monoxide, which is very dangerous, cigarette smoke, which comes from cigarette smoke, drugs such as alcohol and viruses. Okay, so we then tap on the effect of alcohol to the unborn baby. So some unwanted substances do manage to cross the placenta and affect the baby. Next, we go to the umbilical cord. So the umbilical cord contains blood vessels, which are two umbilical artery and umbilical vein that transport blood between the fetus and the placenta. So the umbilical artery, just like any other artery, carries blood rich in metabolic waste, mainly carbon dioxide and urea, from the fetus to the placenta. So these the arteries move from the fetus to the placenta, carrying blood rich in metabolic waste. Well, the vein carries blood rich in dissolved food and oxygen from the placenta to the fetus. Okay, so the vein is the one that carries blood rich in dissolved food and oxygen from the placenta to the fetus. Then the amnion and the amniotic fluid. The amnion is the membrane responsible for enclosing the amniotic fluid. Well, the amniotic fluid protects the fetus from mechanical shocks, drying up, and also maintains a constant temperature around the environment of the fetus. Okay, so it makes sure that the fetus is not too cold or too hot, so the temperature is maintained, and also because it's a fluid, the fetus cannot dry up. So that's it about the umbilical cord. Next, we look at gestation period and birth. Oh, I meant that's all about the amniotic fluid. Okay, so next we look at the gestation period and birth. So gestation period and birth. What is gestation period? So gestation period, it refers to the period of time between fertilization and birth. Okay, when the male gamete and female gamete meet till a baby is born. So that period is called gestation period. So in human beings, the gestation period lasts for about 9 months for a boy child and about 8 months for a girl child. The process of birth is made of 3 main stages. The first stage is called dilation, the second is delivery, then the last stage is after birth. So dilation is the first major stage of birth and involves widening of the cervix in readiness for expulsion of the baby from the uterus. Okay, so the cervix widens, becomes wide, so that it is ready for a baby who is in the uterus to be expelled, to come out of the uterus, to be pushed out of the uterus. Okay, so the cervix gets ready for expulsion. So before dilation, a woman experiences intermittent contraction of the uterus, which are called labor pains. Intermittent means, they are not permanent, yeah. So there will be some pains which comes about due to the contraction of the uterus, which are called labor pains. So labor pains are initiated by a hormone called oxytocin, which is secreted by the pituitary gland. So after dilation, the amnion bursts to release amniotic fluid. this is called the breaking of the uterus. So the uterus, this content of the amnion, which is the amniotic fluid, is going to come out of a woman who is about to give birth. The second major stage is delivery, which is the expulsion of the baby from the uterus. So the baby is expelled from the uterus to the outside. So this is brought about by strong contraction of the uterus coupled with voluntary contraction of the abdominal muscles by the woman. Okay, so those labor pains, remember, which are as a result of the contraction of the uterus, they are there so as to push the baby outside the uterus, or towards the cervix, then outside the woman. Okay, and this is also assisted by contraction of the abdominal muscles, which is voluntary. During a normal delivery, the head of the baby comes out first. However, there are situations when the legs come out first. If the legs come out first, the process, such kind of birth is called a breech. The third and final stage of birth is the expulsion of the placenta from the uterus to the vagina. This is called the afterbirth. So when the baby comes out, the placenta now has no job, so it has to be expelled from the uterus. Okay, this is what is called the afterbirth. We close this topic by taking a look at birth control methods or family planning methods. So this basically involves limiting the number of children and spacing their births so as to get the following benefits. So parents would want to have a certain number of children, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be having sex. Okay, also they would want the ages between the children to have some space. Maybe this child is born in maybe 2022, they would want to have another child in 2024, not maybe in 2022 this one is born, in 2023 another one is born. The reason why why parents would want that, first, to give the mother time to recover from the effects of giving birth before she can have another child. Also, to ensure each child receives enough nutrition, shelter, clothing, education, and attention. Also, the methods of birth control, by the way, other than that, these methods that we're going to study that are there to control birth are called contraceptive method because they are used to prevent conception. Okay, so they are called birth control, family planning methods, or contraceptive methods. But at the end of the day, they're just they're there in an effort to avoid giving the mother, in an effort to make sure that the mother has time to recover from the effects of giving birth, and also to ensure each child receives enough nutrition, shelter, clothing. Because if a family has lots of children, then providing them with education, food, shelter becomes an issue. Okay, so parents need to have some sort of birth control methods. So these methods are divided into two groups. There are natural methods and artificial methods. Okay, so natural methods are those that do not involve man-made tools or materials, so to put it. So the main advantage of natural methods is that they cost no money. Otherwise, the natural methods are not reliable and require a lot of discipline. On the other hand, the advantages of artificial methods include the fact that they are highly reliable, but they cost money. So we're going to start with two natural methods. The first one is called withdrawal method. Okay, so this is the removal of the penis from the vagina just before ejaculation. Okay, so before ejaculation, the penis is removed so that the spermatozoa cannot be released inside the vagina, because if that happens, then the chances of fertilization to occur are high. So the disadvantage of this method is it is unreliable, because the fluids that a man releases before ejaculation contain traces of spermatozoa that may still fertilize an ovum. So this method is not reliable because of this. The other method is rhythm method. Okay, so this is a contraceptive method where a couple only copulates during the safe period of the menstrual cycle when fertilization is less likely to occur. Okay, this is where you start where the couple have to start the menstrual cycle of the woman. Then there are periods which are called safe periods where the ovum is not in the system, and during those times it is safe to copulate without consequences of pregnancy. Okay, the science is if there's no ovary, then the spermatozoa are going to be just inside the woman, and there will be no ovum to meet with them, so there will be no fertilization. Okay, so with time, if there's no such meeting, then the sperms are going to die. So this method is also unreliable because the length of the menstrual cycle is modified by factors such as type of diet, stress, and physical exercise. So the menstrual cycle keeps on changing, and because of that, it's difficult to track the safe periods. We go to the artificial methods. We're going to start with the condom. So a condom is just a thin latex sheath that is fitted around an erect penis or inserted into the vagina before intercourse so as to keep semen from being deposited directly into the vagina. So there are types of condom. There's a male condom and a female condom. A male condom can be put around an erect penis, while a female condom can be put inside the vagina. The idea is the semen or the spermatozoa need to be blocked so that they don't go into the inside the woman. So it is the only contraceptive method that prevents the transmission of STIs such as syphilis, gonorrhea, and AIDS, because normally when the erect penis is covered with a condom, or the vagina is covered with a condom, then there is no direct contact or exchange of blood between a man and a woman. So because of that, STIs are prevented. However, if a condom is expired or not properly used, they can break or leak. If they break, then their purpose is not going to be attained. Then there's also some people complain that these thin latex sheath called the condoms reduce enjoyment of sex and cannot be used spontaneously. That is whenever you just feel like starting copulation, you cannot use condoms. So because of this, they cannot be used with complete satisfaction by people. So these are some of the downside of using condom or taking condom as a reliable artificial method of preventing pregnancies. Next, we look at the diaphragm, which is a thin latex cap fitted over the cervix before intercourse so as to block spermatozoa from entering the uterus. So this one is more reliable if used in conjunction with spermicides. Initially, the diaphragm must be fitted by a doctor. So a woman has to go to the hospital clinic where they have to insert this diaphragm so that to protect the cervix and the other parts, so that after copulation, spermatozoas cannot reach the cervix and therefore cannot go to the uterus and therefore cannot go to the oviduct to meet with the ovum. Hence, there will be no pregnancy. Of course, this needs to be, like I've mentioned, to be fitted by a doctor. And also, I have to mention that it is more, it works best if some chemicals, the spermicide, are sprayed on the diaphragm so that when the sperms reach there, they can be killed. So here is an example of this diaphragm, and some spermicide are added here. Then it is inserted inside here so that it covers the cervix. So when after copulation, if there are some sperms, they cannot go to the cervix to look for the ovum. Then another method is intrauterine device called IUD. So this is a device made of plastic and copper wire that is inserted into the uterus to prevent implantation by irritating the lining of the uterus. So this device can only be fitted by experts, and it may cause discomfort if wrongly placed. So this is the IUD. So this IUD is inserted like this. Okay, yeah. So this is what's going to be doing. It will be irritating the lining of the uterus, and because of this, implantation cannot occur because the lining is being irritated. Okay, but if it's not properly inserted, of course it can cause discomfort. So next are the spermicide, which I mentioned, which are just chemical substances that are applied inside the vagina before sexual intercourse in order to kill spermatozoa, and these ones work well when they are used together with the diaphragm. Okay, next we look at the contraceptive pills, or the hormonal method. So this is where hormones such as estrogen and progesterone are administered in the form of pills or injections to prevent ovulation and implantation. Okay, so these hormones are going to go inside the body, and they're going to make sure that there's no ovulation and there's no implantation. So because of this, this method is only reliable if taken according to prescription, but it has side effects such as interfering with the pattern of the menstrual cycle, nausea, and weight gain. So a woman who is administering these contraceptive pills, they may have uncontrollable weight gain. So the next artificial method is vasectomy. So this is the cutting and tying of sperm ducts to block passage of spermatozoa from the testicles. Okay, so in this case, this is done, of course, in a man. So the man is still able to engage in sexual intercourse, but when this man ejaculates, the seminal fluids that have no spermatozoa are going to be released. Okay, the fluids that are going to be released won't have sperms, mean that this man cannot impregnate a woman. Okay, so that's how vasectomy is. So this method is 100% reliable, but the problem is it's irreversible. You cannot reverse it. If at some point a man decides, okay, with a woman that, okay, we want to start having kids, then you cannot reverse it. Okay, once this method is done, then there's no way a man is going to have kids. So this is a diagram that shows vasectomy. As you can see, the sperm duct has been cut here and tied. The last one is what is called tubal ligation or laparotomy. So this one is where the oviducts are cut and tied to prevent passage of eggs from the ovaries to the uterus. So this is like vasectomy but in a woman. So this one targets the oviduct. Vasectomy in men targets the vast difference. So this method is also highly reliable and usually irreversible. Just like in men, when a woman decides, okay, I don't want to have kids anymore, so they can tie the oviduct, or they can cut and tie the oviduct. But when the woman decides, okay, maybe now I want to have one more kid, it's not possible because you cannot reverse the cutting of the oviduct. So this is the diagram that illustrates the oviduct that has been cut and it has been tied. Okay, so these are the artificial methods of preventing contraception. So this marks the end of reproduction. Happy hunting.